Hello there, I'm Tim and welcome back to the Watch Box. The week is over, it's time to start the weekend. Not yet. First, we've got a full program tonight featuring new watches, industry news, your wrist shots, and a chance to win some stuff. So first and foremost, let's do a quick wrist shot to start off the show. Warm up my macro lens, and you'll take a look at my Amvox 2. The Amvox 2, it's a vertical trigger chronograph from 2006. I'm actually wearing it right now because this is grade 5 titanium, and I found it is the most scratch resistant of my watches. I'm looking forward to a weekend of walking around the city streets and exploring Philadelphia down by the waterfront, so I want an active watch to accompany me. And so my Amvox is ready to roll. 12 years young, I absolutely adore this piece. Put Richard Mille on the dial, and it's a 6-figure watch, and I never own it. Awesome. This is the kind of stuff I wish JLC were doing today. And it even fits my tiny wrist at 44 millimeters. All right, joining in, I can see our friends from around the world. Mozart Reveal, first. Edward Ledden from Sweden, second. Scott Hockenberry, Joe Bjorn, Ryan H., Robert Dixon from Scotland, the Fat Gent. A little bit of self-deprecating humor, and of course, Cesar Demir. Welcome, guys, and welcome Matt Foster from Nova, and Paul Edsheed from England. Okay, first things first, I want to emphasize that as you start your weekend off right, there is no better way to keep the time, whether you're buying, trading, or selling, than thewatchbox.com. It's why I hear they pay for these pixels. So, all of that said, you can also watch my videos of some of my favorite watches. Come for the watches, stay for the videos, and of course, we are answering the phones 24 hours a day in Philadelphia or, wait for it, in Hong Kong, where we now have a satellite office. So if you find yourself a world away, guess what? Watchbox is right on your doorstep. Fly into the watch mecca of Hong Kong and pay a visit to Josh, Zoe, and the entire cast of characters. Same great watches, same friendly service, different side of the planet. Okay, first things first, let's talk about some batting practice and then get into what this is all about. Okay, warming up your monitor with pitches and cuts. Heuer or Tag Heuer? This is something that's coming to a head. I've been asked a couple of times whether Tag should just go back to Heuer branding. Now, of course, Tag was the appellation that was conjoined with the old Heuer family name during the mid-1980s when Technique d'Avant-Garde, a Middle Eastern-owned high-end technology and equity firm that also at the time invested heavily in McLaren, which is why for a while they were TAG McLaren. They bought Tag Heuer. So for about a generation from the mid-80s to the 1996 IPO, Tag ownership and the Heuer heritage became Tag Heuer. The name stuck after Tag divested itself of its interest. And with the revival of interest in historic Heuer, as well as a number of successful historic re-editions by the brand, many are asking whether they should simply ditch the TAG, the Tag appellation altogether and go back to Heuer. Now, of course, right here, you see an example of a Tag Heuer. We can show a quick Heuer. I think we have a Heuer-only standalone to show you what their vintage recreations and vintage re-editions look like. But here's the question, guys. Should Tag go back to just being Heuer? And if so, should they be strictly a historically oriented brand? There we go. We got the Hodinkee limited edition. See, I love Hodinkee. I put them up on my Instagram. I'm going to go out and just say no, they should not. First, you have to be comfortable in your own skin as a company. There's an entire generation of people who grew up and came of age in the 90s and the 2000s thinking very highly of Tag. They associate good memories with that brand and that branding, and they might not understand a cut back to Heuer. The equity in the name, in my opinion, comes entirely from the 90s and the 2000s, and maybe even a little bit the 80s. The people who were in the watch market and active in the watch market during the heyday of Heuer, which ended with the Le Mans Piaget takeover in the early 1980s, those people are effectively out of the market. Some of them are still hanging with us, and God bless them, but Tag Heuer has value, and there is a built-in constituency for that brand if the brand can figure out what it stands for. Are they vintage re-editions? Are they quartz? Are they smartwatches? Every once in a while they throw out a high complication like the Tête de Vipre, the Besançon chronometer tourbillon, or the all-carbon Monaco V4, trying to wow us with something grand, albeit scaled down to a Harley-Davidson price point. And sometimes they want to go custom, like with the new Bamford agreement. Sometimes they want to sell online. Sometimes they want to sell through online boutiques. Sometimes they want to sell through select vendors. They need to settle on something. I believe that Tag Heuer, and it should remain Tag Heuer, should be a $1,500 to $5,500 watch brand. It should take some targets, put them in their sights, and stick to those competitors. Focus on Oris, Longines, and Tudor. Define yourself by your enemies if you want, and then tap your heritage. There are people who remember the 90s and the 2000s well, and you can go back to that era and revisit it with mechanical watches and high-quality modern watchmaking without lapsing back into indifferent middle-of-the-mall quartz watches. So go with the market that exists, the people in their 30s and the 40s and even early 50s now, the older millennials and the meat of the Gen X market. Keep Tag Heuer relevant, make it that Tudor killer. If Tag Heuer could be LVMH's Tudor killer, it would be in a wheelhouse position to make real money, win new converts, bring back the old flames, and frankly be a stronger brand than it is today. Keep Tag Heuer, but above all, advance the state of the art in a price point, $1,500 to $5,500. Okay, so guys, let me know what you think about Tag Heuer's current track, and I'll read off your comments as we go through the video tonight. Okay, another question I was asked, Tim, what past model would you like to see Rolex reissue? That's easy. I would like to see the 1954 to 1955 Rolex 6556 True Beat. Rolex made a deadbeat second watch. It was the caliber 1040. It was a deadbeat second timepiece that was marketed vaguely as a doctor's watch. If the pulsometer had been the old school doctor's watch, the True Beat was thought to be the face of the doctor's watch of the future. In a very short 5-year run, very few made. Most were converted back to 1030 calipers after the mechanism responsible for the deadbeat second actually wore out and Rolex ceased to continue making the mechanism and spare parts. So for me, I think this is an awesome watch. This is part of Rolex's lost heritage. Just as Rolex started to reclaim its heritage of fine complications, romantic complications, last year with the Cellini moon phase, I believe it's time to bring back watches that for whatever reason fell into the dustbin of history. Let's recover them from the dustbin. The lid isn't closed just yet. Along with the Milgauss, along with the Submariner, along with the GMT Master, this is a watch that deserves to be remembered. And without being a reissue, do what Rolex does so well and refine and update its heritage. There was a big gap between the 1988 Milgauss and the 2007 model. It doesn't have to be a retro watch, and it shouldn't. Bring back the complication, bring back the spirit of the thing, and I love the no-date dial. That has to stay. Rolex, I know you're not listening, but if you were, the True Beat. Okay. Question, and this is a real subject to speculation across the fora right now, but does the Rolex 126710, the new GMT Master and the Jubilee bracelet, mount to an Oyster bracelet? In other words, if you could get someone to backdoor you an Oyster bracelet, could you put it on this watch? The official answer is no. The official answer is that the interface is proprietary to the Jubilee bracelet, that the two were designed to go together and you cannot retrofit it with any other bracelet, even if you were to go out and get a complete intact Oyster bracelet. That said, the aftermarket is awfully clever, and given the fact that Bamford is actually a multi-billion-dollar company that builds military equipment and trucks, that did a side business in custom watches, there are certainly those in the Rolex aftermarket who have the technology to machine a lug. That's not in question. The question is whether anyone will take the initiative and whether any customers will be brave enough to void their warranty and take them up on the offer. Which brings me to an interesting thought. Is there a market, now that Bamford has pretty much gone LVMH and solo LVMH, they're going to be working on Tag, they're going to be working on Zenith, they're going to be working on Hublot. Is there a market for someone to move into the super premium Rolex mod and resto mod space right now? I think there is, and I think an adaptation of an Oyster to the current GMT Master would be an excellent place to start. I'm not advocating anyone modify a Rolex. I'm just saying these things happen, and that appears to be a market waiting for a solution. Also, consider this. Could there be a Rolex equivalent to Singer Porsche? Singer, company out of California that takes old 3-liter, 3.2-liter, 2.7-liter Porsches, and it modifies the heck out of them. In a sense, it actually restores them and then upgrades them to modern technologies, LED lights, ABS brakes, high-tech engine adaptations that fuse old crankcases and heads. Central Philadelphia, folks, we got to make do with the neighbors. We love them. Philadelphia's finest flying by in the background. At least they know you're coming. All right, but like I was saying, before the sirens started, maybe someone's speeding in their Singer Porsche outside. They take a car that would sell for maybe $100,000 in absolute mint condition and they turn it into a $600,000 car. By upgrading everything, they can start with a wreck and they wind up with a super premium product that people will wait years to obtain. Could you take Rolex watches that have decayed past the point of collector interest, that are damaged, that have been so compromised by retrofitting of components that they're no longer considered standard enough to be collectible in and of themselves, and do something like what Singer does with these Porsches? Basket case cars that wind up being Concours level, drool-worthy, trophy level rides. I think something like that could exist. I would love to see someone try. Bamford had the resources to do it, but they worked exclusively with modern Rolex. Now that Bamford's out of the game, I think the field is open. I would love to see what someone would do with modern Rolex. Yes, an Oyster adaptation to the GMT would be cool, but I would really like to see someone do something with the vintage Rolex watches that will never get love from collectors because they're just too far past it. Bring them back in a different form. If you were good in a past life, you come back as something better. That goes for watches too. Okay, I can see Craig Derrick saying, Singer is hands down amazing no matter what they touch. They're getting into watches with the Singer Track 1 built by Agenor. I wonder if they could be the answer to that Rolex quandary I posed you. Also, I can see Brick Lane saying Singer is like AP, and Robert Dixon of Scotland, a German car fan at heart. I know he's a man after my own. I knew Porsche would be green because Tim picked it. Okay. All of that said, Ryan H. says, it is possible that Rolex is actually missing out by not building its own in-house engraving and modding enterprise. Very possible. We know what they can do with gem setting. I would like to see what they could do with a more bespoke offering. It wouldn't compromise their simplicity, their integrity, their technological prowess, or their refinement, because it would be done in-house and would be relatively simple stuff. Engraving a case, customizing a dial, none of that changes the movement, the water resistance, the durability. I can't see Rolex building a tourbillon. I could see Rolex having like something along the lines of the Vacheron Constantin, super high-end custom, doing maybe 3 dozen watches a year just to whet the appetite. It would be cool. I don't think it'll happen, but it would be cool. All right, Bitcoin. Did I get your attention there? Yeah, that got your attention pretty quick. All right, yes, a watch for Bitcoin enthusiasts, and not merely one that you can buy with Bitcoin, but one inspired by Bitcoin and undoubtedly more stable than the $8,500 asset as of today that you might have bought for $17,000 back on January 6th. Well, I didn't dip my toe into that pool, and thank God for that, because I'm still saving for a minute repeater. But Louis Chevrolet Watches, which apparently exists, is now offering a Bitcoin edition of its Chrono Tour, 99 pieces. Almost of necessity, the company does accept Bitcoin in the purchase of this watch for about $2,500 US. And by the way, we at Watchbox also accept Bitcoin. If you want to buy with Bitcoin, call our folks, mention it. We do have a mechanism in place. That said, you only need about 30% of 1 Bitcoin as of this instant to wear this 44mm Valjoux-powered 7750 expression of your peerless horological taste and discretion with wealth. Blockchain bracelet not included. And by the way, just in case you want to know whether I'm speaking in earnest about your peerless taste, can we go full screen on that, guys? I think that kind of says it all. No comment. Moving on, HYT wins a red dot. We had a little bit of a tiff in the comments section under the last episode concerning the red dot awards out of Germany. There is the Design Zentrum of Nordrhein-Westfalen that actually gives out the red dot awards each year. And the suggestion was that this is a German benefit for the sake of cheering the home team, almost like the fans for the German national football team, albeit rooting for industrial design. Well, you've got a good point, but HYT out of Switzerland won one of the awards, which puts it on par with Nomos, also a laureate red dot this year, and Moritz Grossmann for their Bennu tourbillon. Now, the watch you see here is actually last year's H0 48.8mm completely circular lugless titanium and sapphire hydro-mechanical watch. That's a mouthful, but it's a fluid regulator, and it's actually a retrograde. That fluid indicator for the hour jumps back after 12 hours, and then it has separate dials for seconds and minutes. The key here is that HYT always had a cool product. From the first time we saw it in 2011, and the first time we got to wear the H1 in 2012, it was a cool product. It was also incompatible with 99% of human anatomy. With the H0, they take the same technology and the H101 caliber and they put it in a case that even I can wear. You can wear this thing on a baby wrist because lug to lug, though it's a 48.8 millimeter watch, it's also 48.8 lug to lug. It's round. There are no lugs. So down to 14 centimeters circumference, you can wear this on your wrist. Red dot, you've done well, and you supplied a little bit of ammunition mitigating against accusations of cheering the German team. All that said, again, most of the winners were German. Who are we fooling? But HYT, well done. Moving on, industry news. LVMH soars on first quarter profits. Okay, Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, owned by Christian Dior, collectively the largest luxury group in the world with revenues over 42 billion euro a year. That's a lot of money. Now, Q1 2018 has been really good to the watches and jewelry group. Well, aside from the typo in the headline in their press release, that was kind of embarrassing, yeah. Q1 2010, guys, good to see you're finally beating the recession. But, again, we all make mistakes. I'm a writer. I understand. So, consider this. Sales were up 10%, which is admirable, and this is for the group at large. Jewelry likely fueled the surge because they are up 20% as a watch and jewelry group. They did break it out a little bit by their interests in various luxury segments. That said, I think most of that number was attributable to jewelry. They did mention that the US, Europe, and Asia have been strong, but the US watch market has been so weak. Again, I think they're hanging their hats on jewelry sales right now. They are still hugely dependent on Asia because if you take organic growth for LVMH in watches, that is growth at existing stores, not new stores, and with constant exchange rates, they would have grown by 15%, but by losing the concession at the Hong Kong airport, yes, by losing watch sales at a single airport in a single city, the entire watch and jewelry group's organic growth was pegged down from 15% to 13%. That's for the whole world. They lost 2 percentage points of growth, which, percentage-wise is a huge chunk. It's over 13% of their growth lost to the loss of an airport shop or an airport shop network. So still over-dependent on Asia. That said, they did well across the board. Wine and spirits up 10%, leather goods and accessories up 16%, perfumes and cosmetics 17%, blah, blah, blah. We don't care about that stuff. It's tough to say how much that is attributable to Bulgari, Tag Heuer, Zenith, and Hublot, but I would like to at least think that they moved the needle. Finally, they did mention geopolitical uncertainties and exchange rates. I think they're talking about the fallout from Brexit. I think they're talking about Southern Europe economic instability, the weird parties that have risen to power in Italy and risen to influence in Germany, as well as a little bit of instability in Central Europe with the Hungarian elections. This is the kind of thing that breeds uncertainty. Add geopolitical strife in North Asia with the saber rattling in North Korea, and you see what they're talking about. All that said, it was good for LVMH Q1. Keep it up, guys. We're pulling for you. Smoke signals. Okay, sometimes a brand tells you a new watch is coming without actually saying it's going to happen. That's been the case with a new FP Journe Chronomètre Résonance, which is quickly becoming the worst-kept secret in high horology. So a sudden flood of press releases and social media presence by Montre Journe, which is the actual company, not FP Journe the man. This is a YouTube video he met about the 35th anniversary of his first effort to build a resonance watch. In 1983, he actually built a pocket watch that was his third watch ever made under his own name, and it didn't work. It was a resonance watch. It was a good attempt. He wasn't satisfied with it. It would not be seen again until 2000 when the original FP Journe Chronomètre Résonance wristwatch debuted. Now that was in 2000. The watch was controversially redesigned in 2010 with an asymmetrical dial featuring a 24-hour sort of half-crescent dial face. The symmetry of the original, especially with the original brass movement, is revered. So here's the thing. I've heard rumors through other channels that a new one is coming, and that it is coming sooner rather than later, likely to be unveiled this year. Now, FP Journe had a quasi-presence at SIHH. That was all about the Elegant as well as the new mono-pusher chronograph. I think second half you're going to see big news about what is effectively a fourth-generation resonance wristwatch from FP Journe. I will also say that he publicly made some whispers in 2017 to the effect that the new watch would be a single mainspring barrel powering both escapements and drivetrains. The watch has only ever had 2 escapements and 2 mainspring barrels, coupled only by the resonance effect, no physical link. But he's also talked about adding a differential so that the 2 escapements would be differentially geared and benefit from the resonance effect, which means it might take a little bit after Grubel Forcy's double balancier, the system where they have 2 balances that are, if we go full screen with these guys, where they can go take two balances and literally gear them together so that the errors are mechanically evened out rather than by resonance. The question is, and this would also be a little bit like the Philippe Dufour duality, of which he made 9, but the question is, does mechanically coupling the twin escapement setup dilute the appeal and the effect of the resonance? It's kind of the hat on which FP Journe hangs the entire claim to fame of this concept. So I don't understand how you can have a mechanical coupling and resonance, but FP Journe amazed me. Believe me, I have confidence. We may not always get along, but I have total respect. Okay. Note to East Asia Pacific viewers, remember, we have a Watchbox Hong Kong shop. If you're just joining us, check out Watchbox Hong Kong. It is a physical storefront. You can walk in and buy, trade, or sell, or just hang out and check out our wares. Okay. Moving on, I can see right here, we have a comment from Bob Rouleau. Hong Kong is a great place to buy a watch. My thoughts exactly. It's also a great place to window shop. I can tell you the coolest stuff we get, the Gyro Tourbillon, the Richard Mille, the Grubel Forces, the really crazy stuff comes in from the Hong Kong office. So if you want to see it before I get my grubby hands on it, HKs all the way. Moving on, I do want to emphasize that we've got some viewer wrist shots for the evening. Matt F., okay, takes the Grail in hand, or I should say on the wrist, with his Patek Philippe 5960-1A-010. Unveiled in 2017, discontinued at the end of 2017, a 1-year-only stainless steel Patek Philippe sports watch, a flyback chronograph, and an annual calendar. I am jealous. By the way, cool dog. Thomas W. turns back time with his 1973 Boulevard Accutron caliber 218 day-date. You can tell it's a 218 and not a 214 because it has that little crown at 4 o'clock, whereas the 214 was a case-back setter. Yes, there was a day-date Accutron, and many others, in fact. Look it up, but awesome watch. I love the fact that it pairs a 1973 build date with a so 70s aesthetic. Awesome stuff, Thomas. And Jabber A keeps track of time, great and small, with his Vacheron Constantin Overseas Perpetual, a lovely watch and a super underrated reference. That looks fantastic. You wear it well. Welcome alternative to the more common chronograph and automatic. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see your parts on my pixels. Watch parts, guys. Watch parts. Okay. Now, I do want to emphasize, stay with me online when the broadcast ends because Tim Masso on Instagram is updated daily. I am Tim_Masso. I like to use big, colorful, three-dimensional pictures and video. I just posted a video of a Grubel Force 24-second tourbillon that goes absolutely ballistic in high res under my iPhone. So if you want to see what that looks like and hear it, check out Tim_Masso on Instagram. I will be updating tonight, so stay tuned. New watches. What is a news program without new watches of the week that was? Vacheron Constantin back on your screen seconds later. Okay. The Overseas Chronograph Black Dial. This is a watch that was widely covered at the beginning of the week, but I feel compelled to cover it because it's just objectively cool. And I also know that a lot of our friends like Vacheron. I had to cancel my Vacheron Mono show because we had some friends from Watch Time stop in on short notice, but that is going to happen, guys. I think we might do the Vacheron Mono brand show 2 weeks from this week. So not the coming Monday, but the following Monday. So the third generation Overseas debuted at SIHH 2016 and stumbled out of the gate due to a couple of missteps. First, it was a huge step-up market, over 40% more expensive than the watch that came before, at least in chronograph form. It was a path beyond for some who had been used to getting more value than Patek and AP in an Overseas chronograph. And compared to the occasional discounting that was present on the market, it was almost like the price of the watch doubled relative to the second generation watch. Also, early 2016 was a period of stormy seas for the watch industry. One of the worst watch dips since the quartz crisis was in full swing, and the Vacheron launched as a very expensive and complicated watch into that swell. Moreover, Vacheron just made too many of them at first. They flooded the market with their own very admirable and objectively desirable watch. Inventories and demand now more closely match. The watch is now selling well. Also, at the beginning, it stumbled out of the gate because, frankly, there were just a lot of unsold second-generation watches still available. And at a huge discount, sometimes $10,000 or more compared to the new watch, a lot of people just went with the balance of the Grand Date Generation 2, and I can't blame them. That said, I do like the new watch more, having experienced it in the second second gen firsthand, I like the new watch better. So tell me in the chat box, do you like this version of the watch better than what was available? And I have pictures so you can cross-compare. The new inverse panda dial, because it is an inverse panda, silver on black, tone on tone, becomes the first tone-on-tone offering among the overseas Generation 3 in steel. Also available, the all-silver dial, which some will find more appropriate perhaps as a dress watch, but it's too cold and austere for me. The blue dial, which is probably the most popular at the moment, but very voguish. It'll be seen as a product of its times. And perhaps the most innovative and distinctive, the brown dial. This is my personal favorite. For me, this brown dial is the one that sets the overseas visually and charismatically apart from AP and Patek, as well as Breguet. It might be doomed if Brian Govberg is correct and this watch is being discontinued, but as of today, it is still priced and cataloged. It is still on the Vacheron website. That would be the one I would buy personally. What do you guys think? Fluffy Kitten saying it looks a little bit generic with the Panda. Steve Plays saying yes in blue, and I can see right here questions coming through. Anthony O saying, I would have to see the black in the flesh to really be sure. The blue and the silver are pretty nice. I also want to emphasize, A. Wilson is pointing out a feature you can't see here, which is the quick release lug system. When you buy a stainless steel Generation 3 overseas, you get the full bracelet, you get a rubber strap with an additional steel clasp, and you get a leather strap too. So you get a lot for your $30,300. This would be my choice. Brown dial for me, please. It's just more different, more adventurous, and a wonderful example of how Vacheron always does things just a little bit differently to remind you that they do belong amidst the big three. Lange may be pushing them hard from below, but look, Vacheron has earned that spot. It's theirs to lose, and I think with this third generation overseas, they're trying to please as many people as they can with a very competitive package. They haven't decontented, they haven't discounted, they haven't downgraded. I'm happy to see the new inverse Panda. I like it. I just like the brown better. And I can see WiseGuy724 saying black simple date is killer. I will emphasize, guys, there is also an automatic that debuted. So there is an automatic. The black versions all have black lacquer dials, so it is a gloss finish, not a galvanized sunburst or a metallic grain. Okay, I will also mention that all models in the Chronograph collection feature VC's Geneva Hallmark caliber 5200, 52-hour power reserve, automatic winding, column wheel, vertical clutch, 150 meters water resistant, and anti-magnetic. This is what you're paying for. This is probably a third of the value of the watch right there and worth your while. Beautifully engraved 22-karat rotor in compass rose format. Okay, Steve Bowden saying 30,300 gulp, but that's competitive pricing in the segment right now. If you want an Aquanaut chronograph, you better save up $43,700 because that's what you're going to pay. Okay, and I can see right here, Anthony O saying the bracelet is ace. Finished the next level. You're absolutely right. You get as much hand finish as you get on an AP or a Patek, but the sizable links are removed with screws, not pins and sleeves. You hearing me, Patek? Screws. Continuing on, best article of the week. Voyeuristic Vacheron. We come back to one of my favorite brands, and this time we are talking about grand complications, or, if you saw my debate on tourbillon complication status, a grand watch with a tourbillon. So Vacheron Constantin Traditionnel Tourbillon 6000T reference review, link in the description. This is by Patrick Yen, Purist Pro moderator and collector extraordinaire. He is a true connoisseur who loves the subject. And it was posted to the Vacheron Constantin Collector Forum on watchprosite.com. I cannot overemphasize, read this. For watch literacy, for personal enjoyment, if you're a player in the $118,000 price range, it's great shopping aid. I mean, it is a great catalog. Vacheron should hire him to do the write-ups for their website for this watch, because you get the bare minimum from Vacheron, you get the max from Patrick. He brings you into the experience and the rare insight of actually wearing this watch for 2 weeks on a daily basis. So he writes from the perspective of a veteran collector who's grown weary and cynical following the endless and often rote executions of tourbillon. It's true, you can now buy a $15,000 Tag Heuer tourbillon. We mentioned the Tête de Viple at the beginning of the show. You can get that. It's lovelessly mechanical in its finish. This is the antidote to the common tourbillon. Now, he details how the Vacheron Constantin tourbillon lifted the cloud of his contempt. So this is a perspective-changing article from one who had his perspective altered. He gives you the type of first-hand access that no other collector forum on the internet will offer you. No other moderators on Watch You Seek and Time Zone are getting this kinds of hands-on. And it's the reason why Purist Pro is the only watch forum where I regularly participate and interact. It's just a better way to talk about watches. Now, excellent photos enrich and illustrate his discussion and the narrative, and bring the reader close to the experience of a watch that very few have seen in person, much less worn at length. It only came out at SIHH in January. Now, the Caliber 2160 incorporates an extraordinary peripheral rotor automatic winding system, one of precious few on the market and precious few in history. It still has an 80-hour power reserve despite being a tourbillon, and it features the Geneva hallmark, naturally, a beautiful movement that has the visibility of a manual with the everyday convenience of an automatic. It's packed into a 41mm watch that you can get in rose gold or in limited series platinum with platinum dial, platinum clasp, white gold hands and indices, and platinum thread stitched into the navy blue strap. This is an extraordinary watch in every respect. Now, the author emphasizes the reliability and practicality of VC's automatic tourbillon, and I have to confess, I've experienced this watch firsthand, and everything he says was to the T, reference 6000T, that is. This was an incredible watch. Patrick's article is more than a service to watch collectors and enthusiasts. It hits close to home for me because I agree wholeheartedly from experience with his assessment. And that's a picture of me holding it over a bunch of Vacheron complimentary chocolates at SIHH. Yes, they tried to bribe me with candy, not realizing that I am an obsessive cyclist. I ate one to make a show. But the bottom line is, VC offers a tour de force in this deceptively simple watch, handling the traditional tourbillon and the Arostier Métier d'Art series at SIHH. And the Métier d'Art was even more spectacular. Engraving and enamel, but it was clear that one Cartier-powered automatic winding non-Geneva seal reference 56 self-winding, that was not going to ruin Vacheron's year. This is a competent watch at a price point, but it's not going to change the fact that Vacheron has never been stronger from a product standpoint. Not in the 18th century, not in the 19th century, and not during the heyday of the 40s, 50s, and 60s of the 20th century. Vacheron is making the best watches in its history right now. Yes, from that humble 56, which punches above its weight for finish at the $12,000 price point, up to that tourbillon and the Métier d'Art. This is a special brand, and it had a great year. I cannot overemphasize, if you've tuned out Vacheron, tune it back in. You really need to consider it. And Patrick shows exactly why. Viewer wrist shots. All right, sports watch special. Shannon S. from Germany adds color to our day with his AP Royal Oak Chronograph Be Happy, a 300-piece limited edition in steel from 2000. This is a rarely seen and little-known tribute to the very first Swiss America's Cup effort. Be Happy? Well, those colors make me happy, even if the effort ended badly. A memorable watch from an obscure sailing effort. This one is as timeless as the shape of the bezel and the form of the watch, the lugs, the bracelet. Shannon, you chose a glorious watch with a wonderfully obscure and joyous background. Shannon B., a different Shannon, offers a German car and a German watch showcasing his Sin 104 day date. Great choices, both cases. And Tyler J. presents a rare white gold Rolex Daytona 116509. This was part of the class of 2016, white gold with a sensational sunburst blue dial. A lot of folks don't know this watch exists, and it is the kind of watch that has so much charisma and punch that once you see it, you never forget it. So congratulations, Tyler. Richard R. presents a stack of bills and a fine way to spend them with his Rolex GMT BLNR. So Richard, congratulations. You have the last word, or I should say last letters, and they are BLNR. So this is a great opportunity for you guys to send me your wrist shots. Monday mailbag at thewatchbox.com. Comment and subscribe if you haven't already for the best watch content on YouTube. And remember, stay with me when the broadcast ends at Tim_Masso on Instagram. I just put up a video of a Grubel 4C tourbillon. I'm going to be showing you the whole watch next. Stay tuned this evening. Tim_Masso, the way to keep up with me and interact in real time after the broadcast goes dark. That said, thank you so much for those of you who joined us tonight. Shannon, Fluffy Kitten, Julio B, Aeolus 1982, also from Germany, Hail Bop, and Steve Place, thank you all. Time out, Tim out, guys. This is Watchbox, and thanks for logging on.